from home. That's about it. Razor gets home. You haven't been doing your wine though lately, have
No,
you?
I haven't had anything since Christmas. So,
Specimen.
no drop, not a drop. Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah, not a drop-ish.
Yeah,
A
that's
drop.
right. That's right.
Razor usually has that. Every once in a while, I'll crack a beer, and then we talk. We talk about the Bruins. And lately, it's been tough, right? Okay, we got a lot of head nods here. All right, but today's going to be different. You know why it's going to be different? Because Razor, how do you go into every game as a professional hockey player?
Expecting to win, positive, happy to play, looking forward to making a difference. Never thinking about the negative, never thinking about the standings, never thinking about trades, never thinking about what anyone else is doing, but taping your stick and getting ready and going out and performing.
This is something I don't think I've ever asked you. I know players have been asked this before, and I'm not trying to start negatively here, but because you're talking about being positive and getting ready to go,
Yeah.
when you're on the ice at the end of a game, though, that doesn't go well, and the fans let you have it. And you've been in some tough markets.
Oh, yeah.
And Boston's one of the best and toughest, but you've been in some brutally tough markets too. How do you take that as a player? Can you ignore it? Do you move past it?
Oh no, you ignore most of it, to be honest, but there's always nights and days that comes in. I think it's very, very important and as players, you think about it. You don't really talk about it with other guys, or you'll talk about it with your buddies at home or whatever. But the idea that and there's so many passionate fans obviously here, just in this hall, but there's going to be 18,000 in there this afternoon that are paying hard-earned money and want to be entertained. But I think it's, the players always, I hope this doesn't come off the wrong way, but the players still probably care more than you at the end of the day. Like, it's easy to be, I hear it on the radio, these players, they're not working hard, they're not trying, they're not giving effort. It's like, I've literally done this since I was 6 years old to get to this level and play this game today. I've literally been blood, sweat, tears, given up my entire life to be able to be out here right now. This is the dream that I've had since 6, and I'm really sorry it didn't go well today, but I promise you that they're as a player, I'm giving everything I possibly can, because otherwise I don't have a livelihood. So I think that sometimes it can be frustrating for fans, but to your question, as players, you get off the ice and it's certainly not a good feeling.
Yeah, it's not like the young kids that we coach or we've been around. I mean, again, not being flippant here, but they're more worried about the pizza afterwards and as they should be, right? Ice cream, pizza, whatever. These guys take it hard. So do we. Yeah, we care about that too. Don't get but it is hard, and you see these guys and heads are down. And now listen, the other thing is, and you brought this up a couple of days ago, we're going to get to the Rangers specifically in the Bruins game coming up, but we're not used to this in Boston lately. That's another thing. And so it feels even tougher being in the middle. Now, that doesn't mean that anybody should be cut slack. It's still part of, your job is to perform at your best. But a lot of the league usually lives in this stratosphere, hemisphere, or whatever sphere. You know what I mean? In the middle, basically. The Bruins have been way up top for a long time. Now they got to figure out how to get from the middle back up there. That's the biggest challenge right now.
It is. I'm just pulling up like the standings right now.
I've got that ready for you, bud.
And it's, I can promise you, like, I absolutely can promise you, because I have a pretty deep connection there too, is that Toronto has 6 more points than the Boston Bruins right now in the standings, and they're second place in the.
They're scared,
and they're having the exact same. They're probably worse still on the radio up there, and they're still getting questions about what's happening, and they're scared. They think they could miss the playoffs, and they think their team needs to retool, rebuild, restructure, whatever it is at this deadline over the next couple of weeks. So there is context to again, to your point. There's literally. This year, especially, there's probably 25 teams that are having the same conversations and the same discussion about prospects and draft picks and who's good, who's bad, third line, fourth line, sixth defenseman. Like, It's again, we've been very, very fortunate to be talking about 1,000 games and 500th goal and Hall of Fame career over the last 5 or 6 years, and this is more the norm right now.
Which doesn't make it okay. Meaning,
not.
it doesn't make like we should all give everything.
The
a pass.
expectation is to win every game and to be at the top of the standings right now and be handily in, like maybe the Washington Capitals. But if you asked a Washington Capital fan what the last 6 years were like, they would, be very envious of this room.
They were a mess there last year.
Of course.
Now they turned it around.
Yeah.
Let's hope that could be a scenario for the Bruins as well. To your point about Toronto, I don't remember. I may have been coming home from one of our games. I don't remember. Regardless, it had on the NHL Network, radio network, it had Toronto, and they were Minnesota, I think, the other night.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I wouldn't call it evisceration, but the radio people for the Maple Leafs were absolutely just skewering the team for their lineup decisions and thinking, aren't they ahead of the Bruins? Aren't they doing pretty darn well? And then I recognize that it's just a couple of points better. And for the team that was kind of one of the chosen ones this year, it's not. With all that said, let's see the Bruins get back going again. And what does that mean? It means getting not just wins, but, if there are trades to be made and opportunities, and we'll get into that in just a little bit too, then you have to do that as well. I mean, The Bruins have openly talked about 2 paths. The thing of it is, the last couple of games, it feels like it's that path. Before that, it felt like a little more to the other side path. And that's, I think also it's the unsettledness. Is that a word? Unsettling. The fact that this team has been so inconsistent you want to talk about violent mood swings at times. I mean, not just game to game, but within games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is, and that's hard on a player because if you're sitting on the bench, and by the way, players feel it. You feel when momentum is leaving you. You do everything in your power, but I don't know how you get it back, but it is a player thing. And you've been there as a goalie. I know, again, playing in college, whenever I've been there as a forward, where you're like, holy smokes, we can't do anything right. You try and do it right the next shift, and then it's like, oh crap, another goal was scored. And that's frustrating.
No, it certainly is. And there's sometimes there's not a lot of rhyme or reason to it. And other times the margin's just so thin in this game that you do everything so well for 45 minutes, but it's the 46th minute gets you or it's the second minute that gets you, and you play a great 50 minutes after that. It's the margin's so thin in this league right now. We're seeing a lot of inconsistency again from everybody. It's the Islanders just won 6 in a row. Like they're so schedule dependent on when you're getting injuries, when you're getting sick, and there's
when you're
so
playing
many
teams.
variables when you're playing teams, the back-to-back, the road games, whatever it is. So again, it's easier to look, I think, at that inconsistency. I think it's harder to look at the opportunity that's still out there for these teams, and someone is going to sneak into these playoffs, and someone's going to be a tough out in the first round.
I got to tell you what, I don't know if they're going to do anything, but the Columbus Blue Jackets, they seem right now, and I know we haven't hit 4 nations freeze or the trade deadline, and that's really when things that March 1st to 5th really change. I don't think they're an unbelievable team, buddy, but they are playing with it right now. They were down 2-0 in the third period last night. They scored 3 goals. Zach Werenski looking like Vezina worthy. I mean, they've got that it right now that makes you say something might be happening there. To your point about a team kind of sneaking in.
Well, they have so much purpose because of what happened over in the offseason. The purpose and the perseverance that they've had and just having a reason to play for. It's added to the start of the season. They've got the big boys that were good last season have taken a step. The 2 big Russians, they got Monahan. He's out right now. But the difference is, and I heard Cooley talking about it yesterday on NHL radio, Merzlikins was .880 in October. He was .890 in November, and December, January, he's .910. So if he has a .910 in February and March, then they're going to be tough to beat. Is he out above his skis like some, is this their good time? And how does the reset affect them? That's curious to me because of the lack of experience that they have. But again, I would never bet against a team, and Calgary's doing the same thing in the West that dealt with a tragedy over the summer that are playing with house money and have a severe purpose for their game.
Right now, because the Bruins are actually out of a playoff spot right now coming in today's game, Calgary, you bring them up. They're the only team with a negative goal differential still in a playoff race.
Yeah.
So Ryan Husk and that team, they're finding ways to stay there. It's going to be tight for them, but nobody expected them, nor Columbus, to be where they are. Speaking of where they are, as we look into this matinee game, Boston Bruins taking on the New York Rangers. With that win last night, Columbus now is first in the wild card with 59. They've got one game in hand on the Bruins. Tampa now is in second wild card spot with 3 games in hand with 57 points. Bruins have 56. Below the Bruins, Detroit, the Islanders, Montreal, and the Rangers, all of them, folks, have games in hand on the Bruins. The beautiful thing about games in hands, that's good English, good games in hand, is that you feel like, hey, if we win those games, we're going to jump over teams. On the other hand, you got to win those games. There's no guarantee that you're going to. But right now, the games in hand is the thing that makes me have pause or cause for concern, Razor, given that the Bruins, are right in the middle of it. But it's not just one team you're worried about. This is 7 teams that are basically battling for 1 or 2 spots.
Yeah, I would say 3. I'm not giving Ottawa. They're not in by any means. So.
But yet they're third in the Atlantic right now with 58.
No, but that's the good news is the Bruins don't have – Columbus only gets in with a wild card.
Right.
The Bruins have a different path where they can still get in their division as well. So if you want to look – again, opportunity optimistic is that the Islanders and Columbus aren't getting third place. The Bruins still have a chance at third place, I would suggest. But what was the question? Or how do we start that?
I don't know. It was more just
games
about
in hand. Games in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, the games in hand are going to be played against each other. So the fact that all the teams have games in hand means that some of them are going to lose them, some of them are going to win them. So, of course, if you had a choice, you would take the games in hand, but that just means you have more 3 and 4, more 4 and 6 in March than the Bruins do. And again, to your point, the reality is, as we've seen, you have to win those games.
All right. There is another former Boston Bruin here, I think, unless Barry Peterson. No, Barry Peterson is here. We're going to bring in, I work with a young legend and a little bit younger legend, even with Barry Peterson over here. Now, we're going to try and do the impossible and share microphones, at least hard for me.
Especially with you.
Yes.
You get a word in yet?
No,
I don't think so. Okay.
But here's the difference. You guys got to speak into the microphone here. Barry, it's unbelievable to have you. We appreciate you taking a moment here to join Razor and myself and all the people. You also have a connection to the New York Rangers right now, don't you? Tell us about your connection to a young defenseman they have.
Well, Mr. Schneider, Braden Schneider, who's from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. His father's here, and his 3 buddies are down from they're going to watch the game, and then they're going to take the train tonight down to New York because the Rangers are playing tomorrow. Who are they playing, No idea. I don't know either. Yeah. They're playing tomorrow night, so they're going to get to see a doubleheader, and then they'll head home. So they were here frequenting a couple of establishments last night, and they seem like they're in good shape still. So we'll go from there.
That's excellent. All right, let's talk about this game, Razor and Barry. The Bruins welcoming a team, guys, that made a major trade last night. I'm assuming everybody here knows, but if you don't, New York Rangers finally pull off the trade to bring in JT Miller from the Vancouver Canucks. I'm assuming they sent Barry's private plane here to get him in town. Yes, and he's here. He's going to wear number 8, so he's going to be in the lineup. When you go inside, you're going to see JT Miller back with the New York Rangers. Played a bunch of years with the Vancouver Canucks, over 400 games, if I remember correctly, but now he's back with the Rangers. So now they're depth down the middle, Trocheck in the middle, then JT Miller, then Mika Zibanejad. I'll start with you, and then I'll ask the same thing to Razor. Have either of you played in a game, I'm assuming but I'll still ask about it, where a player was traded either that night or early in the day and they made it in time to make it in town? And what was that like when a player jumps into your lineup?
Well, the first thing you're trying to do is welcome them, immediately, because you know how uncomfortable it is sometimes when you're coming to a new room. Most of the guys usually know 2 or 3, right? Yeah. A couple guys you either played junior with, you played somewhere in maybe the minors somewhere, or college. So you usually know somebody, or you train with them in the summertime more so now than what we used to do. So you try and get them to be as comfortable as possible quickly. And that's not easy to do in a city like New York, and that's not easy to do when listening to you guys describe the Bruins playoff opportunities or chances or lack thereof. The Rangers have the same problem. Everybody in the East, other than maybe Buffalo, seems to have the same problem. And this next 6 weeks, when's the deadline? 4th?
7th.
Yeah. March 7th. This next it's going to be really intense, and it is going to take a few teams, franchises, and they're going to go in completely different directions depending on what happens with the standings. And it's not only the Bruins.
No, I know. It's
everybody.
Yeah. Razor, what about you? Having a guy come into your team, you have you remember that happening anywhere? How is that? How was it?
I don't remember day of like this kind of a scenario, and the same scenario as last week with Mikko Rantanen.
Yep.
The trade deadline. I don't remember playing on the deadline. Of course, I remember. The deadline's always chaotic, and you have friends, and you have teammates, and you have guys that leave, and new guys come in. And to Barry's point, you end up, whether you know the guy directly or the guys on the other team that he's coming from, and you try and make light of as much as possible the fact that he had to just uproot his whole life, and you make fun of that, the fact that they don't have jackets or they don't have any clothes for the long road trip that you're now on. But it's again, it's really important just to kind of get them integrated as fast as they can. It's a whirlwind kind of day. JT's been to New York and played for New York, so that's a little bit easier. I know the back staff is different in New York. They've got rid of most of the guys from inside, but still there'll be familiar faces with the training staff, and that'll make it a little bit easier for him. But certainly it's a weird day, and we saw that again. Anyone who watched up close and personal last week of Natchez playing for Colorado, it's a weird day, and today it's a weird day for the Rangers, and you hope the Bruins can take advantage of that.
Tomorrow they play the Vegas Golden Knights back to back.
Okay, that's a tough weekend for them. I would also add the thing that makes it a little bit different than when we played back in those old days, Razor, was that with free agency now, whether you're restricted or you're an unrestricted free agent, the new place that you're going to and the uprooting that you're doing to your family may not be the same place that you're going to be in 4 months. You may be uprooting again and going a different direction. So it even makes it more stressful and difficult, and you try and get through it. And I truly believe there's going to be a lot of movement this year. But the problem is right now there are too many teams in it, and so nobody wants to kind of make the first couple of moves to either show the team that's on the ice or the fan base that they believe they're not in it. So that's going to be difficult.
We're seeing players with term moved right now.
Yeah.
That's what we're seeing versus the other trades that you're talking about that I think we will see. There's going to be 2 trade deadlines this year, right before Four Nations, so to speak, and then there's a freeze. And then after that, March 7th, the actual trade deadline, which, by the way, we will have a trade deadline show on Nesson that day. Let's talk about this game. So now you get JT Miller, Zibanejad, Trocheck down the middle. The Bruins will line up with Lindholm, Zacha, Patra, Beecher. Those will be your centers. That's a tough matchup, isn't it, guys? Razor and Barry for the Bruins.
It's the Rangers. I listened to you earlier talking how frustrating it is for Bruins and Bruins fans. How this year has been. I mean, this is something that this organization is not used to. Especially, it's one thing to lose a game, but it's another thing to lose the way that they are losing. This is a team that historically has built itself on team defense, solid goaltending, penalty killing, and yes, the power play will kind of go up and down in various years, but you could always count on those other 3 elements. Right now, you can't. We can sit here and talk about the game. We'll sit down, we'll watch in the first shift, you're going, uh-oh, or the first period, uh-oh, and it's like it's not there. A lot of it, I think, has to do, when you talk, you guys are around the league more than I am, but a lot has to do with the scheduling, I think. It's a weird schedule because of the Four Nations.
Razor was saying that, yeah.
It's really got a lot to do with it. How many times they play in 3 and 4 nights? 10 times this year? That may be once or twice in a normal season. So that's got a lot to do with it. Training camp seems to have been a problem for a lot of teams. A lot of guys didn't look to me like they got the proper training. You started off on the wrong foot. There goes your confidence, and it's hard to get it back because you're playing every day now. You don't even have time to practice anymore, to work on things. So that makes it more difficult. And as disappointed as the Bruins and the Bruins fans are, I think the Rangers and Ranger fans feel the same way. This was a team that, won the President's Trophy last year?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, a good hockey team. When we looked at the standings or the projections at the beginning of the year, I would say both the Bruins and the Rangers were probably looked upon as top 5, at least, in the East. Would you say that? Both teams?
Rangers for sure.
Yeah, and the Bruins were too with the 2 additions. They got, those were the 2, hasn't quite worked out, but those were the 2 coveted free agents that everybody wanted.
Razor, your opinion on, I know you do a lot of national radio too and everything. We usually wrap on post game, but what you've seen, what you know about why the Rangers have been better until their last 2 games where they lost 5-4 and then was a 4-0, right? So they haven't been nearly as good. They were feeling really good about themselves. I think they were 8-1-3, I think, in their previous 12 games, and then they lost their last 2. So they're doing the uh-ohs, the pucker up right now. We're no good, that type of thing. They're fans I'm talking about. What have you seen? What do you know about them that they've been better with?
Well, they've continued to get amazing goaltending from Shesterkin.
Mm-hmm.
He's been fantastic, even when the team was losing 12 in a row or 1 of 15. They were getting the goaltending they need. Shesterkin's nails. He's still top 3 or 4 in expected goals against. Is
he one of your favorite goalies to watch?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why is he one of them?
He's a hovercraft on the ice. I mean, his ability to skate and move. He's not as big as a lot of guys. He's only 6'1", 6 feet, which isn't big nowadays in the league. And he just cooks out there. He's got great style and great flow, and just he's just so athletic and so good, and has been his entire deal. Contract's completely worth it. So he's been good. They've continued to get that. They've shored up a little bit of their structure. Their PK is still pretty good, and that's carried them with the goals against. The power play is still struggling, and now it'll be interesting to see if Zibanejad gets better matchups with Miller being in the lineup.
He has not been good this year.
He's been the down. He's been the big down for them. And well, I think too, though, like we've talked about all of these teams, and Barry just brought it up. It's scheduling and timing and who you're playing. They beat Ottawa 5-0 a couple weeks ago, right before the Bruins beat them 2-0. Both teams got Ottawa in a week. They didn't score. They were all sick. They're on the road. So there's a little bit of that. And now really it comes down to both of these teams that are playing today are looking at, throw the Minnesota game out, throw the Vegas game out next week. It's this game and it's Wednesday night. And if either of these teams don't split, it's big trouble. And you can look at today's game as really, really important, but Wednesday night's win, or that's closer to do or die for the team that doesn't win today. You can split both teams can split today and feel good about it and be in a good spot at the end of the deadline, but neither of these teams can afford to lose both of these. And that's where today is really important, but Wednesday night is going to be even more so important.
And Billy, when we talk about the Rangers and we talk about inconsistencies, just looking at their stats here, a couple things just kind of stand out. Chris Kreider, world-class. All-star, potential all-star, and obviously well-known in the area, grew up here, BC, played at BC and so forth.
Having a tough year.
He's played 42 games and has 2 assists. Now he's got 15 goals, okay, but 2 assists for a player of his caliber. Zibanejad, what do you have last year for points? Remind me, Razor.
90 plus.
90 plus. Right now, he's minus 25.
Yeah. Taking a lot of heat too there.
Yeah.
A lot of these star players that make the big money, they're taking a lot, and understandably so. That's part of the responsibility. Yep. So he's struggled. Now, the one thing that has helped them too has been a trade. Remember, they traded Capo Caco, or if you don't remember that, they've had so much drama in New York this year with their team. It is unbelievable. It's like a live soap opera, a hockey soap opera there. You got players bitching about not being this, and another guy, Jimmy Vesey just came out the other day talking about how he's paraphrasing, wasting
Yeah.
away there.
Yeah.
You've had Zach Jones, who was a defenseman who played at UMass and was really, I thought, pretty good there. And he's hardly playing. And you have other players obviously unhappy. Capo Caco talked about it. He gets traded. I will say the player they brought in, Will Borgen, has been good. And they signed him to a $4 million a year, 5-year contract when they got him right there. But when it's all said and done, it's about their goaltending. It's going to be about their 1-3-1 neutral zone, something to keep an eye on. Peter Laviolette, folks, he likes to coach that, teach that. They like playing the neutral zone like that. See if they've tweaked it or not. And then, can their star players? We haven't even mentioned Artemi Panarin.
Right.
But the other guy that's just signed a mega contract, too, that has been, you talk about Zibanejad not being good, is Lafreniere.
Yeah.
After what did he sign for? It was something ridiculous. It was like 7-8 years, $7+ million a year. And since then, guys, he has not been good.
So what about a wild card here? If we sit here and think about it for a second, the dressing room and the drama that you just talked about, okay? Very explosive, obviously. Now, all of a sudden, Miller returns there. I'm not necessarily sure that may work. Who knows? I mean, they know him. The Rangers.
It might just be what they need right now.
Could be.
And it might not.
It may not. This could go either way real quick.
Barry, we appreciate you taking time, buddy, and joining us. Thank you for coming in. We got to always great to get to hang out with you. Now go enjoy a day off.
Yeah. Razor, good luck getting a word in here. Okay, bud?
Razor, let's talk a little bit about pressure and situation. And there's been a lot of talk the last couple of days, and I'm sure you've gotten this, like I have too, about, the captain's been asked a couple of times, Brad Marchand, about his situation with the team. We're entering that season. That's just reality. We just are. Unrestricted free agent to be going into things. I don't want to see him leave. I don't. It's important for me for many reasons, not just the fact that I think the world of him, but also I think that the team needs him. But on the other hand, if there's teams that are willing to call you and make offers, do you have to listen or do you shut it down?
I think you're shutting that one down. You have to listen to a lot of different scenarios. And listen, these guys are on the phone. GM is on. These guys are literally on their phone. The GMs have a group chat. You get kicked out of it as soon as you're fired. Someone boots you out of it. But they have a group chat, and they are blasting each other nonstop all day long. So you're listening to everything. Brad's off the table, though. For me, it's you don't get rid of a guy who's been here and has a cup with you, and it's just you don't get rid of him ever. Or very close to ever, let alone in season. It's just not a typical move.
Unless it's like a Ray Bork type thing where there's an
opportunity. If the Bruins were 12 games or 12 points out of a playoff spot, we could do this hypothetical here. But yeah, if they were 40 points, if they were the Chicago Blackhawks and Brad this was his last season, then yeah, you go to him and you have that discussion. But not in the scenario right now. I really. I get that it's entertaining to talk about it, but I just don't. I wouldn't do it.
I don't want to see him go I think we had to address it though, since it's been out there the last couple of days, and everybody's talking about it because somebody said that they heard something. Trust me, most people haven't heard anything. That's just the truth. That you hear things when you
or there's a reason somebody's agent gave somebody something to get out to be able to leverage something else on another deal. Like it's interesting how it works.
Agents are important, and I know you have a great.
No, agents aren't important, but they are out there.
Well, I was going to say, I said, and I know you have a very good relationship with your agent, who was while you were playing, and still is a good friend of yours. But they do get a lot of the crap stirred.
Yes,
they end up doing that.
Yes, they do.
Intentionally.
They do. Yeah.
All right. A couple of things I want to ask as we look and get you set up for this game again. I'd expect the lineup to be similar-ish to last game, but wouldn't surprise me if Michael Callahan's in the lineup.
I know he's 3-1. Get him back in the lineup.
Yeah, exactly. And I know they practiced with him, quote unquote, in the lineup yesterday, so you could see that. Would it surprise you if a guy like, I guess, Wallstrom's back in the lineup today too? I mean, you've lost 2 in a row, and it hasn't been. I mean, the Buffalo game still significantly pains me. the way that we got no God over here. I heard that. I don't know, man. You know what? That one, I'm going to keep it clean. It perturbed me, perturbed the heck out of me, that one. Just watching things. You said it on our post game morning brew with Jaffe and Razor about at least give yourself a chance to win. Even if you lose 4-3, do that. But a 7-2 game, holy smokes! But my point is, lineup changes, especially after 2 losses, have to happen.
Yeah, certainly, and unfortunately, the big ones. Big one right now on top of Lind is Kastelic. Not having him in the lineup, you can see the bottom 6 isn't quite. It hasn't been as effective, and certainly wasn't. You didn't get a lot out of them in the last game.
They started them. They being Joe Sacco started them. I think that was in response to the fourth line being started the other night too. So it's fourth against fourth. Going against Winnipeg.
Yeah, exactly. And so again, I would expect changes there somewhere throughout that bottom 6, just because of the lack of production, not just offensively, but on the forecheck over the last couple of games, and they're going to need more tonight. And it's also matchup based, right? We already talked about the Rangers and their 3 centers, so now you have to look at how you deploy everybody a little bit differently too.
Let's talk about that a little bit heading into this one. Your centers again, Elias Lindholm. I expect him to be with Marchand and Coyle again. I expect that we'll call it, big line put together. The Zaka line, the top line remains the same. Poitras will be out there. I would, assuming, I'm basing off of what we get yesterday. Official lineup haven't been brought out just yet, but Frederick will be on the left. I'm thinking, this is where we could see Brazeau or Wahlstrom on the right. I just feel like Wahlstrom has been out a bit, could get back into the lineup, and then Beecher. So, are you good with? Matty Poitras came in making some great plays the first couple of games, controlling the puck an awful lot. Where are you at with his game? Because the last 4 or 5 have been, in my eyes, a little different.
Again, you're developing. He's far from a finished product, and when you're developing, you're going to get uneven results. It's just how hard the NHL is. So we're seeing with Matty. I've been on the have him in the minors the entire season boat from the time he got sent down. I'm glad he came up and played well and had a good few games, but I think we're seeing, how hard it is to establish that on a nightly basis and a consistent basis as a 20-year-old. And, I think we got a nice glimpse of him last year, and it was cool. And he was a teenager and he was a junior age player, and he was in a good spot. I think you're still in development mode with him. So, today you can manage his matchup.
Yeah.
On the road Wednesday night, it's probably a little different. You'll probably see Coyle slide back down to the third line against these centers and center that. Today you can manage him there with, and then of course if you have him with Frederick, that's your other center low option in the defensive zone, because again, Matty's still trying to. We saw it in Buffalo. He's still learning how to play in the neutral zone and play defense.
Manage the neutral zone has been
play. Huge. It's really difficult as a younger player in this league to do so.
Speaking of managing things, Mason Lowry. He's a player that you're going to kind of feast. I don't want to say famine. That's a little strong. You know what I mean? You're going to live in kind of struggle with at times, even more so given his position that he's playing. Obviously, the other night, you just can't do that. You can't attempt to bring the puck out. Nikolai Ehlers is a savvy veteran, had his stick outside, sees Lowry try to go inside. He's like, oh, my God, come to me. And he puts his stick out there, and he swats it, and there's no chance for Korpisalo to get back in there. But if you're going to develop a young defense, and by the way, he's not, because of his college, and remember, he repeated a year. He didn't come in as a 20-year-old, he's coming in as a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
So he's at 24. I feel like, you've got to play him right now. You're going to still talk with him, but you're going to have to live with some, as I said before, some mood swings.
You are, and you can't, the league's really hard to, you can't win and develop. I am.
But isn't that what you're doing with those guys right now? Yeah. Yeah. All right. I see
So
what you're saying.
it's you can't. I know that the shiny toy, the young shiny toy is alluring, but there is, if you go through the league and you go through the last 3 or 4, there isn't a team that's developed and won. There's you're either doing one or the other. And I had a conversation about this with somebody about another team. It doesn't even have to be about the Bruins. Is you have a young defenseman. Typically, a coach doesn't really want to play a young defenseman if they have to win now. If the mandate from the coaching staff is to win now, guess who the first guy out of the lineup is when you lose? It's the youngest defenseman. That's how it is. And then the second guy to go is the youngest centerman. And then the third guy to go is the youngest winger on the second line who hasn't been, Matvei Michkov having it out with Torts. Torts wants to win.
I've not heard good things about that.
These are the things. You can't do both in this league. It's really, really hard to play in the NHL on a nightly basis. And it's really hard to develop. You can't to develop on the fly and win at the same time. And that's, again, you go to, a team that's been in the playoffs for 9 straight years, and you wonder, you question, well, where is the young center? Well, that's the reason they've been able to make the playoffs, because they haven't had to develop anybody.
We don't need to get into it here, but you bring up the Michkov thing. Who's going to win that battle? And it's going to be a battle.
Torts hasn't lost many, and if he does, then he's happy to go. He's going out on his own terms. He's not changing.
Oh, no question about it. But from what I'm told, Michkov doesn't
had enough. Well, he wanted to win Rookie of the Year. He wanted to win Rookie of the Year, and he's not going to, and he's feeling like his reins have been reined.
He's got some cojones yelling back at him on the bench there. The world has changed. You never would have done that.
No.
I mean, if you were Patrick Waugh, you can do that after playing how many years, right?
Yeah, well, guys didn't. Yeah, there's a lot of culture.
Did you ever yell at a coach?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. You got to stand up for yourself.
Well, yeah.
In the league, too.
Yeah.
Definitely not when I was 20 years old.
Right, that's my point. I was going to say, when you were 20.
No, when I was 20.
Just sitting there.
120 pounds. I couldn't do anything about it anyways.
So, who would have been? So, Pat Burns would have been.
I had Burns and Keenan, yeah. So, I think Keenan tested me a few times, but I didn't.
You think?
I didn't even know that I was supposed to yell at him or not. But, yeah, that was interesting.
He is known for that.
He liked people to push back.
Oh, my God. I
back.
grew up with. Well, anyways, the guys like Roenick talk about the stuff that Keenan did.
Yeah, you had to yell at him.
Holy smoke. The other guy who did that too a ton, Ken Hitchcock.
Yeah, Hitch needed.
Hitch would give it. And there were more, bombs, F-bombs going back. Hitch got yelled at, I think, more than anybody by players. Anyways, successful coach, though.
Yep. Yeah.
In the end.
An easy target.
All right, let's talk goaltending. You already drawn up Igor Shesterkin. Today we expect Jeremy Swayman to be back in there. Where are you at with Sway's game?
It's close. It's close, but it's kind of like he's been on the back end of the big third periods. The easy ones, Buffalo the other night, you give up 3 in the third, your numbers are going to take it, a punch in the gut. The Winnipeg one, but there's a lot of responsibility as the number one guy, and this is a situation that he's never been in, and now he needs to have. We've talked about Columbus, the Merzlinkin run that they're on.
Yeah.
I talked about Shesterkin, kind of not wavering throughout the disaster that was November for these guys. Sway, I'm looking forward to him getting to the break here. I'm looking forward to him to playing for Team USA. He's going to be the third guy. Mm-hmm. He's going to be able to continue to work. He's not taking a vacation. He's going to be here in Boston. He's going to be getting ready, getting better. He's going to be against best on best. He's going to see Ottinger. He's going to see Hellebuck on a daily basis. And I think that will really benefit his game to be able to get a break from this, but not a break from hockey, and continue to build his game. And I think that's the reset. Get through these next few, win this game. He can still steal a couple games here. And now the second half, or the quote unquote second half after this break, go on a run. And we've seen it. He did it last year in the playoffs. If he goes on a real good run after this break, again, there's a 9-0-1 or a 9-1-1 in this team, and there's certainly one in him as well.
Well, if they're gonna make the playoffs, they're gonna have to do that. How's that for the obvious analysis heading into it?
It'll help.
All right. Folks, we can't thank you enough for coming here. Megan,
Yes,
I'm going to say
thank
this
you.
is a record crowded Heritage Hall. I don't know if
There
it's
you
the
go.
truth, but it's not. Okay, but it's close. Well, just don't let the facts get in the way of a close. There, but thank you very much for coming here. Heritage Hall is wonderful. They've done a beautiful job here, the interactive stuff. We appreciate you taking some time. Game is going to be coming up in about 45 minutes. So go inside, enjoy yourselves, get ready for that.
Still get warm up.
And still get some warm-up time in over there as well. We'll talk hats when we wrap up here, but that's going to do it for this morning Brew with Jaffe and Razor. Pre-game Bruins take on the New York Rangers at 3:30 here on Saturday. Razor, you and I'm pretty sure, I don't have the schedule in front of me, a good host would know this. I think we're going to do a show after the Minnesota game.
Sure.
Are we?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think so. I don't even know if I'm in town for the Ranger game. Regardless, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll let you know when we're doing our next show, but thank you guys for all of your support, meeting everybody.
Thank you very much.
Great stuff.
Everybody. Yeah.
It's going to wrap this one up. Hey, listen, let's see the Bruins win today and hopefully enjoy your coffee.